And it will be absorbed in a much more profound way because people are already passively in front of the television. The fact is, people who study psychology and advertising understand frequency following response, and because there's no regulation, they can apply it to their advertising with profound effect.
Let's go to the phones. Go ahead, finish up, Nick.
Well, and there we are. And so it's so simple, and yet people aren't even considering it.
First-time caller line, you're on the air, Otto. Go ahead.
Hi, George.
Hi.
I don't remember your guest's name, but he's fabulous.
He's the best. Nick Begich.
Nick. Nick, I sure wish I could have dialogue with you on many occasions. I drive truck, and I spend many a lonely night thinking about stuff like this.
You're here.
Yeah. Well, Nick, you live in Alaska, and you're away from a lot of environmental pollutions. I drive truck all over the country, and I'm exposed to water and air that most people are accustomed to, but I can tell the difference. I can taste it sometimes, unfortunately, even the air. I'm wondering if there's some chemicals and solutions that can actually break down the blood-brain barrier. Is there things that I can actually take, maybe choline and inositol, maybe some herbs? Is there things that I can do to protect my brain from this bombardment of heavy metals, mercury, lead, fluoride?
There's certainly things you can do. A good Google search under detoxifying the body for primarily heavy metals would be useful and easy to find lots of information in this area. You know, when you think about toxins coming in, and we talk a lot about, and you hear a lot of talk about colloidal minerals, for instance, and their benefits. But what people don't recognize often is that the detrimental elements are also in colloidal form, and they're being pumped into the atmosphere at incredible rates as the third world develops. And as that material circulates, and a lot of it collects in the polar regions, so we see some of the effects of that, and there's all kinds of things. And it's not just heavy metals. You've got false hormones within that chain of chemicals that are causing a feminization of species. It's being noted first in the Arctic, but is also being anomalous reported all over the place. A lot of the toxins we put in, 2,500 new chemicals a year, most of which are never analyzed, and if they are analyzed, they're in isolation. In other words, not within sort of interactions with all those other chemicals that are being dumped into the system. And on a certain level, I think that we're paying the price of all of that. And if you travel a lot, I travel a fair amount, and I see the same things you do. You notice really quickly the environmental differences coming from a place like Alaska and then traveling to other places. But at the same time, you also recognize how much open space there still really is. And there's got to be a better balance. I'm sure there is. And this is where the intellect is important right now. And these technologies that could actually improve and maybe create circumstances where we might solve some of these problems, or at least have a greater possibility of solving them, that's what we need right now. And applying technology in our education systems, think about how many billions and billions and billions of dollars are spent locally and by states. Our state, over half the budget is education. In most states, that's the case. And we're not applying the basic technologies that have evolved now for some cases 20 years that could really accelerate us in terms of what we were producing in sensible development.
Okay, great. Thank you, Otto. Appreciate you being on the program. Wild card line, it's your turn on Coast to Coast. Hi there.
Hi, thank you so much. I have a couple of questions. The first is, along with HAARP, how can we actually protect ourselves with certain things, such as, are there any side effects can people use CAT scans or MRIs to do damage to the body or the brain? The second one is, are there any laboratory pieces that have been stolen from the Chrysler Corporation and different corporations that could possibly be used on people? Thirdly,
well, let's go one. Hold on. Let's go one at a time. All right.
Okay. On the scans, there's some that are concerned about the amount of energy involved and how that energy is impacting the body. But I have not seen enough of the studies that would say danger. And obviously, imaging is really important to diagnosing certain illnesses. So there's a trade-off in all of that. But like anything, I mean, even X-rays when they were first invented were very high levels and actually were pretty bad for people. And as we learned, we found out we could do it with a lot less energy and more efficiently, but there's still risk involved. But I think it's all moderating the risk. Corporations, corporations develop a lot of technologies that get applied when you look at some of the things Martin and Marietta, Boeing, some of the big companies. But here's the thing that happens, why I think whistleblowing is important, is to escape the Freedom of Information Act, to escape being able to report under that. There are certain exemptions. One of them is communications between private companies. Communication between private companies and government is exempt. And obviously what goes on in private companies doesn't fall under that particular aspect of law. So a lot of things kind of get subbed out. Even think about the subbing out of the military through Blackwater. I mean, then you have no accountability and people can operate in the jungle and you decide what the jungle looks like. And these kinds of lack of accountability measures are what results in I think, abuse of science and abuse of a lot of things. And that's been what sort of has been awakening, I think, a lot of people in the country right now, is in almost every area where we really want to know just a little bit more about what the truth is, we find ourselves being denied the opportunity to participate in all of the things that come from the decision making. And that's really what it's about. It's, we're talking about our health, our privacy, our safety, our security, and yet we don't get all the information to have an honest discussion. And that's, I think, the big missing link in all of this.
I had one more question, and that was, is it possible for some of these different countries, especially the immigrants that have come in, to apply themselves in genocide, in brain control, or any other type of situation like that?
I'm not clear on the question.
Like with, say, an elderly person who had a woman from Bulgaria. She said, we're coming after you, we're coming after your children, we're coming after your grandchildren, and then we're going to take your house. Is it possible for some of the immigrants to have had training in mind control or other situations?
Sure, that's possible. But just in terms of the general philosophy of governments, I mean, if you think about, I heard during the break, the art of war is going to be discussed, and that's a philosophy the Chinese applied when Mao took China from the nationalists, and the same principles being applied economically against the West right now. And when you look at sort of the underlying philosophy of government that gets projected in that case into their population, the idea was the other way around, which is supposed to be us projecting our values upward. It doesn't work that way, and even in our own country. But I think that we're seeing sort of long-term plans to dismantle or to put forward somebody else's worldview. And I think that's what we're seeing. China's deliberate change is not because it has some enlightened day where they decide capitalism was a good thing. They're using our strength against us, which is really the art of war, in a way that it can collapse us. If they just spent the money, $1.5 trillion that they're holding, it could devastate this economy. If you look at Russia, bankrupt 10 years ago in 1998, and today the third largest currency holder in the world. Ideologies are based upon all kinds of things, and how they manifest in governments and through populations has a lot to do with mind control on a fundamental basis. And it's about public opinion, and it's the way you move it. And the question becomes would governments utilize these technologies? And the answer is absolutely yes. And some governments would make no bones about it, period. And even the Chinese military journals report on these very same technologies. And so it's really a question of who, when, and on what populations these things eventually get utilized, and in what conditions, and under what premises.
Okay, very good. Next up, west of the Rockies, you're on Coast to Coast with us. Hi there.
Hi, George. Nick, how you doing?
Good.
Hey, good.
I've been a big fan of your work ever since I saw stuff on like light and sound therapy stuff that you did quite a while ago.
Right.
And George said something earlier that really kind of just struck a nerve. Like when I go to certain like websites or certain things on on the internet, I will just completely blank and forget what the heck I was doing, And
yeah, you forget where you were going.
Memory. Yeah, and I have a great memory and everything, and I almost wonder if like it's a light flicker or something.
It could be. There's so many things that can interfere with brain performance that are just subtle, and it could be just an interaction within that particular spot at that moment. Because here's the difference: is